Okay, the title of this one is a little intense, but stick with me. So when I turned 40, I was giving out of my car. My birthday is December 31st. I'm a New Year's Eve baby. So when I turned 40, we were back to school in January, and I was getting out of the car at my son's school, and I had on some shoes that just kind of had a slick bottom, and it's icy and cold where I live, usually in January. And I slipped, like stepping down out of my car, like just missed that bottom step guy. Whatever that little step is on the side, I just slid right off and I fell directly on my bottom in front of like all the parents at the school in the parking lot. And it hurt, but it was more of a pride hurt kind of thing. Update, I just turned 41. And the other day, walking up to my daughter's volleyball lesson, I absolutely ate it, you guys. Like, ate it. Like, skinned my hands, my elbow, my knees, and it was just like disaster world. So 2 things. 1, please remind me that when I turn 42 next year, I'm not allowed to go mountain climbing. And then 2, welcome to Outer Monologue. So I think I'm telling you about falling because 1, my hands still absolutely hurt and I look like a crazy person. I've got a million Band-Aids on my hands. And if you're a mom and you have Band-Aids that match the color of your skin at home, like kudos to you. I don't. Every Band-Aid in my house has some sort of neon design or character on it. So I was not subtle about my injuries at all. I look like a patchwork quilt of premenopause. It was not great. But I want to talk about falling down, I think, a little bit more in the sense of failure. And so stick with me on this one. That title is kind of a play on, we're not falling, we're flying. But whenever I think about falling down, I always think back to going to MD Anderson. Because I can remember at my second major MD Anderson appointment when I was getting all my scans and when they were really getting ready to like stage my cancer and do all of the things, just like any hospital, they'll ask you certain questions, like intake questions. And one of them was, when is the last time you fell? And they purposely ask this, usually for older people or for people with balance issues or, to diagnose, neurological issues. But I had just fallen, like I walked out of my front door and I slipped on some ice a few months beforehand and just like splayed like Bambi fell on our driveway. And so anyway, I didn't want to tell them that happened, but I'm also not a good like liar or omitter. So I went through this long thing and I still feel really sorry for that intake nurse because I think she was like, girl, this is not what that was about. Like, you're clumsy and nobody can walk on ice, but whatever. It always takes me back to MD Anderson. And it always kind of reminds me of like what falling really means. Because when my daughter was 15 months old, that's when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I was 30. And it was like a super old man cancer that I wasn't supposed to have for like pale skin, older men with blue eyes. And I was none of those things. It was way more commonly seen in like your 60s in males. And I had just turned 30 and I just had a baby and I'm not fair skinned. And I did what the most Liza thing to do is, and that was just like head first dive in. What was the worst thing that could happen? And I wrote about this a lot, but I've never really talked about it. But that's part of my personality. One of my coping mechanisms for anything is just like, let's learn every single thing about it. You will become an expert in this. And so that's what I did. I learned every single thing about my disease, about that diagnosis. Like I read every single scientific paper I could get my hands on. I wanted to know what the outcomes were. And I just dove in head first. And unfortunately, going through all of the literature about this, and I guess unfortunately, it was terrifying. This cancer did not have a good outcome, very high mortality rate. And I think one of the scariest things I ever did was there was an Ocular Melanoma Foundation like message board. And I joined it because I had a diagnosis and I wanted to talk to people about it. And there were so many profiles that were inactive. And I messaged people or I posted things and it was just, for lack of a better word, it was dead. And that's because literally the people that were on that message board had died. So that was a little scary. And I was in nursing school at the time. I wanted to be a nurse anesthetist just because that's not really what I wanted to be, but like money. That would have been a good way to do a job that I would always have that would allow my husband to do the job he wanted to do. And instead, the first doctor that I talked to said, hey, you should go home and spend time with your family. So that was also scary because I just didn't think anything could happen like that. And I was so worried about everything else. I wasn't worried about dying. I was worried about literally everything else. And that'll just shock you back into the present. It really will. And knock on wood, I guess I'm sort of a little bit out of the other side of that. I've had some reoccurrences. I've had multiple rounds of chemo and surgery, but something about that gut check was liberating, which is insane. And I was talking to this mom, and you guys, I do not like to make friends. I'm just not very good at it. And there's this mom, and she's really sweet, and she has decided she wants to be friends with me, and she's in my son's class. And I'm just kind of like tapped out on school mom friends. I've really got some good ones, but like I got 2 new ones this year, and I think that's enough. So it's just a lot. But anyway, she's super sweet, and she's looking to connect, and we're just kind of chatting. And in passing, she mentioned that she had a son, and that her oldest son had passed away from cancer. And it's just such a gut check every time because I didn't pass away from cancer, or not yet. But so many people that I knew and I met while I was at MD Anderson did, or they lost the people that they were there with. And I met people in that universe, and not all of them are still with us. And of course, like in a metaphysical sense, yes, of course they're with us. But physically on this plane, they passed away. So I guess it always feels a little bit weird, and a little bit of the caveat of talking about this, even as I'm mentioning this in something where I'm talking about failure, sort of implies that those two things are congruous, and they're not. I didn't succeed because I lived through cancer. That's not what this is about. It's more about the fact that at a young age, or a youngish age, in my 30s, more than 10 years ago now, this doctor basically said, hey, this is fatal. This is a very, very, very bad kind of cancer. And that sucked. But it pushed me really hard to immediately go, okay, what's important? What's a priority? And in that, there was a blessing because it made me figure out really fast who I was right then and who I wanted to be. And the further I've moved away from that diagnosis and that sort of very real threat, I think the more lackadaisical I've gotten in kind of knowing who I am and what I want and who I want to be. And that's not great. And no, I obviously don't want another reoccurrence of cancer or a near-death experience, or I'm falling down all the time apparently. But like, I don't want that. But I do feel like I need to circle back to that person in that space from time to time to kind of go, hey, are we doing what we need to do? Are we accomplishing what we need to accomplish? And that's not like, am I a millionaire yet? But more along the lines of like, am I being the person I want to be? Am I having the impact I want to have? Am I taking care of the people I want to be taken care of? Am I working towards being that person at least? Am I growing into that? I started this episode talking about falling down. Like when you fall down, it sucks and it hurts. And definitely in the immediacy of that, like you realize you're not perfect, that you're flawed. You also could have gotten hurt. I could have hurt myself just because I wasn't paying attention. And I don't know, maybe I need to keep falling down around my birthday so that I have those gut checks and that sort of fear response. I think fear can be one of the biggest causes of failure. We fail to do something, we fail to act because we're scared. And so that like insane foolhardiness I had right after a cancer diagnosis was just, what are they going to do? Kill me? And I come from a very sportsy family on one side, and there's a lot of like lore because they're all really funny, well-accomplished people. My uncle goes out onto a football field and everyone's really big, and they go, what's the worst thing they can do? They can't eat you. And it's like, yeah, okay. So I think operating from that space sometimes, because I'm so opposite that person, is really helpful to kind of master that fear. Because for the most part, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a helper. I want to do everything for everyone. Like helpers help. I say that all the time. So we do kind of need the people who are like, hey, you can't help me with this, which of course makes me want to help you more. But you do need people that will put up guardrails for you until you can kind of put them up for yourself. And if you've got those same eldest daughter perfectionist tendency vibes, like oldest girl in your family kind of thing, we start to get in that mode of perfection, perfection, perfection. I want it to be perfect. And it's scary. And we're scared of failing. But that fear is leading directly to failure. And that's what happened with cancer. It was liberating because I just didn't care. I didn't care if it was wrong. I didn't care if it was bad. I didn't care if other people liked it. It let me become incredibly selfish of this is what I want to do. And even a little bit of this is what I'm supposed to do. And not having that fear of a backlash or people thinking you look silly or thinking you look stupid or thinking that you're making the wrong choice. That's always a big fear for me. So in that way, it was liberating. So when I fell down the other day, as goofy as it is, as much as I laughed at myself and, told my friends about it and my brother and my dad and my husband, and I just made fun of myself, it's kind of nice. I'd like to figure out a better way than falling down every year right after my birthday. But when you're falling, you're helpless. And when you hit, you realize what's important. Like I didn't bust my face. I didn't break my teeth. I didn't break a bone. I didn't hit my head. I was completely at the mercy of not paying attention to where I was going because I'm an idiot. But one of the best possible scenarios was just falling down and realizing I'm not focused. And everything wasn't moving in the same direction like it's supposed to. So I'd definitely rather fall down than have to get cancer again to kind of wake me up and get me focused. But this works too. So I'm not mad about it. And I need to get focused. I need to take a look around and I need to think about what's important to me and what's not important. And what can I do better? And what am I scared of right now? How is current fears leading to failures? Why am I not pushing myself? What am I nervous about? And that's probably not God moving in my life, scaring me away from something. It's probably me. And in all the different boundaries and scenarios and awful things that I've put up, all these barriers that I've created, all these things in my head that I'm worried about. And like right now, on this episode of my podcast, I can see how many people listen to my podcast. I'm still sort of shouting into the abyss a little bit. And yes, my writing is picking up again like it did before, but again, still small. And maybe I stay small this time. And that's not terrible. Because a lot of the talking I'm doing right now is for me, I think, and a little selfish. And I hope you guys can kind of indulge me and forgive me for that. But in order to do things for myself, a lot of times I have to convince myself I'm helping other people because I care about that. Helpers help. That's something that drives me. But taking care of myself, going after my dreams, my goals, I need to work on that. Maybe you do too. Maybe we've been playing it a little safe, playing it a little scared. So what's the worst that can happen? You fall down. But the other cool thing about eldest daughters, girls with perfectionist tendencies, strong women, we stand right back up. Thanks for listening.